7:13, and we're getting the Wingin It Wednesday folks settled in. I believe there's going to be a lot of name calling.
A lot of name calling, nice.
It's okay.
Love it.
We're keeping up this morning with some more reporting on the California shooter. Yesterday, it's really interesting. A lot of the first responders spoke out. Mm-hmm. One of which was the guy who was seen in the cell phone video. Everyone is kind of freaked out. He was evacuating people. He was leading them. And, they were crying and freaking out. And he turned around and said, look, if anyone's going to take a bullet, it's going to be me. So I want you to calm down.
Wow.
And it's just so powerful.
That is powerful.
Federal investigators are learning this morning that a $28,000 bank deposit, first reported by Fox News, it went into a linked account for California shooter Syed Rizwan Farouk and his wife Tashin Malik. There is also some reports that the plot might have been dating back to 2012.
Wow.
And not this specific one, but planning one with someone else. We know she is new to the picture since the summer. Apparently, there was some questions about where that money came from, where that deposit came from, $28,000. Well, it turns out he got a debt consolidation loan through an online lender called Prosper shortly before the shooting. Now, 14 people died, 21 injured. We've been reporting on this story for more than a week now. Apparently, the funds were not issued by Prosper, but WebBank, which is a federally regulated lender in Utah. And so that sort of tells you something. There were some thoughts which maybe someone overseas in in the Syrias or Pakistan or somewhere might have deposited that money, but no, it seems as if he got this as a debt consolidation loan, and that's what helped finance this situation. Now I'll tell you this: the money is in addition to his $53,000 a year job as a health inspector. Could have been used for weapons, could have been used for materials and everything else. I think information will continue to pour in as we get deeper and deeper into it. We have to sometimes think in the fast-paced world of news, we might not know yet what happened. So I think it's just going to be interesting as things keep on coming out. As I said, we're getting our Wingin It Wednesday folks seated in their seats. Get comfortable. And we will begin Wingin It Wednesday next. It's News Talk 96.5. Good morning. It's Wingin It Wednesday at 7:18. You into that? You like that one?
That one is like way fun.
We're
Love
joined
me
by
some Adam Levine, yes.
Carol Ross and Warren. Mike Stagg could not be here today, so this will be a very non-interesting conversation. I'm just kidding.
Not enough to fight about. Well, it's Christmas.
As we have been talking about, we updated it. Kind of what got started this whole Muslim conversation going again was the shooting in California, now a terrorist attack, which we now know, by radicalized Muslims, the man and the woman both. It appears the attack might have been starting to be planned in 2012, so we're learning more and more. Donald Trump, though, is defending his plan to bar all Muslim immigrants and visitors from entering the United States until the vetting process can be fixed. Carol, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
I think Trump is a really interesting case. I mean, he's totally turned the whole campaign upside down. And I think why he is tapping into the feeling of anxiety from a lot of Americans is because they're so tired of the Republican Party, just capitulating immediately instead of actually standing up and negotiating. And remember, Trump is all about the negotiation, about the art of the deal. So he knows that if you start at the most outrageous point way out here that you'll never get, but some kind of way you negotiate toward the center. And I think typically that's what he does. It's a whole bunch of things going on here. That part, because he knows he does have that little qualifier in there, somewhere in there about until we can fix the vetting process, right? But what does the media pick up? Because he knows they're going to pick up the most sensational part. And then when they don't talk about the modifier that he puts in there, then he can come back and say, you see how the media distorts all my stuff. And so this has happened over and over and over again. It's amazing to me that they haven't figured it out. They get sucked right in every single time. And then they come back and say, and totally debunk the media because, look, it's the media doing what the media does, sensationalizing, and they're all against me anyway. I think that's absolutely a very key factor going on here. So he gets to always come back and act like he's moderating, dialing it back and then he gets 5 more interviews to talk about dialing it back. So he's getting all this free media.
But
there's method in his crazy madness, right?
He knows what he's doing, though, because
Absolutely.
He starts off his comment by saying, stop the flow of Muslim immigrants until we fix the process.
Then but nobody heard until
his
we fix
qualifier.
the process.
But why don't we just say it backwards? Why don't we say, we need to fix the vetting, so until then, we should stop the flow. I'm sorry to say, as a member of the media, they would still pick up on the fact that it needed to stop. Well, they're still going to
sensationalize it. That's true, but they do it over and over again. And of course, they're doing it for a good reason, too, for their selfish reason. They get ratings with Trump.
Yes.
Big ratings. Did anybody ever think that debate way back when was going to get the kind of ratings that it got? The very first debate? No.
Warren, your thoughts?
The first thing I got to say about this whole thing is that I think that the people in this country really appreciate somebody coming out and saying what they actually believe instead of saying some prescripted thing written by consultants for them, a la Bobby Jindal, a la Barack Obama, and the rest of them. The thing that I get most impressed by all of this thing is that I've always been so turned off by the fact that we keep using this term, we are at war. We are at war. This is a war, the global war on terror, and they keep throwing this thing about war, war, war. First of all, there is no declaration of war. And if so, when you're at war, then the whole rules of the games change. And if you go back to any time that we were really at war, during World War II, World War I, any of those times, did we allow Germans just to come into this country at will? Just show up with their papers and come in? Of course not. We shut down everything. What people don't understand was that before World War II, there was a shipload of Jews fleeing Nazi Germany that docked in Miami trying to get political asylum here. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt turned them away and sent them back to Germany. Why? Because we had the thing shut down. Because Germans and people from Germany were not allowed to come in here. And, what Trump has said, he has certainly resonated with a whole lot of people. And now you got all these other people saying, well, blah, 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 this, that, and that. So then you turn around, and when something happens like what happened in Santa Barbara and all that, then nobody wants to use the real term about why the people got killed and who did the shooting and such stuff as that. So, Trump may have been over the top a little bit, but look, on the other hand, this whole thing has been over the top.
Carol, you can wrap up this topic.
Well, because, and then he rightfully cites what Warren just said, Roosevelt shutting it down completely. But over the years, even before that, we shut it down based on nationality, not based on religion. And this is what the difference is. People are saying we're basing it on religion. What he would have done better is what's working through Congress right now, which is based on those states, those areas that are state sponsors of terrorism or harbor terrorists, specific countries like Sudan, like Yemen, like that sort of thing, like as what Roosevelt did, shutting down Asian migration or Japanese. The Japanese at one time were not allowed in. The Chinese at one time were not allowed in. And as Warren says, the Germans at one time. So, but that was based on nationality. They're saying this based on religion.
We'll bring the conversation closer to home. What kind of job do you think Jay Dardenne will do as Commissioner of Agriculture? We'll address that next.
All right. So Service Chevrolet, thank you so much for being a sponsor of Winging It Wednesday. Look, wrap up the deals. Wrap up the year in a new Chevrolet from Service Chevrolet Cadillac. How about buying a new Chevy Silverado 1500, a 4-door, for as low as $24,985. That's right, $24,985. They have great deals on cars, like a new 2015 Spark for only $99.90. That's $99.90, or a new 2015 Malibu for $17,985. And if you're looking for another car that just really will go, a Chevy Camaro, a 2015, you can check it out. How about 0% financing for 72 months on all the new 2015 Chevy Camaros? You have got to check out Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Where do you find them? 1212 Ambassador Caffrey in Lafayette. That's 1212 Ambassador in Lafayette. Chevy find new roads, according to current GM data.
Bernie's got news, weather, and traffic. Then we'll continue with Carol and Warren here at News Talk 96.5. 7:38 at KPEL. Wingin It Wednesday continues. We have Warren Caudle and Carol Ross. Mike Stagg couldn't be with us today. We'll continue and bring the topic closer to home. What kind of job do you think Jay Dardenne will do as the Commissioner of Administration? I apologize. I misspoke earlier and called him Commissioner of Agriculture. That's not him. No. That's not him. Sorry, Mike. I know Mike very well. The Commissioner of Administration. Warren, we'll start with you.
What kind of a job do I think he'll do? I have no earth idea. I think he'll probably do a pretty good job, as he has been in so many different governmental jobs where he had to run different departments as Lieutenant Governor and as also as Secretary of State. And so I think he'll do quite a good job. Now, I know there's a lot of flack about the money he's going to make, and this is a payback for his endorsement to John Bell Edwards and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That's the American way of doing things. And it is certainly the Louisiana way of doing things.
Get what you pay for, huh, Warren?
That's right. And you know, what did Harry Truman say? We got Congress, the best Congress money can buy. And that, you know, if you want to be upset about that, then go out and change the rules, change the laws. The one thing I'm going to give credit to is Carol Ross's husband, Ron Gomez, when he was in the state legislature, pushed through to exempt, to take away the retirement from legislators, because what they would do, it was back in those days, they would spend 12, 15 years, 20 years in the legislature on an elected job. Then they would get appointed to some kind of high-paying state job, whether it be like Commissioner of Public Safety or whatever it was. And then that's what their retirement was based on, the last 3 years of their highest salary. And so these people sat there, and it was just a round-robin kind of thing. They'd spend 3 years there, then they would get out and go somewhere else to another job. And that the same thing with Rodney Alexander, who was in Congress from Monroe, and whatever. I mean, this thing just keeps going over and over and over. So don't get mad at Jay Dardenne. Don't get mad at John Bell Edwards. Change the laws.
Carol?
Well, thank you for remembering that. Some of the funniest scenes were, you know, they used to love to put the freshman legislators on the retirement committee with Shady Wall because it was always such a learning experience. And I use that term, I scale that back, that term back as to what kind of experience it was. And he would put in the amendments all the time, and Shady would crumple them up and throw them in the trash can. Because the part-time state elected officials were getting a higher, formula for retirement than the full-time people like teachers and all that. And so it was just so unfair. But anyway, yeah, Jay's going to do real well. I think personally Jay is a very nice guy. And he does have that range of experience. I mean, he served in the legislature, including as chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, and that's going to be a big, big, big part of what they have to do in the coming 4 years, fix the state finances, and they've committed to doing that. He administered the offices of Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor. He's been described as a technocrat. He really gets into the finance part of it. He was but on the downside, he was one of the chief proponents of the Stelly tax hikes. I think he helped to shepherd that through. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be effective, but effective at what? How effective do we want these people to be? Do we want them to be very effective at passing more taxes on us? I don't think so, but I think that's what's coming down the pike. I don't think it's going to be avoided. And especially if you want to expand Medicaid and give all these additional benefits out, I don't know how you're going to do that without fleecing the taxpayer again.
We will talk about that.
Will he be effective at that? Probably.
We'll talk a little bit later on at 8:10. We'll talk about that Medicaid expansion and how much it could cost us here on Acadiana's Morning News. Mm-hmm. We will take one more break and then come back to wrap up Wingin It Wednesday. The question: should former Lafayette Parish School Superintendent Pat Cooper continue? We're still talking about his termination from November 2014. Back with Wingin It Wednesday after this. 7:45 at KPEL, and the conversations in between breaks so much more interesting than what we actually talk about. But we do have one last interesting topic. Pat Cooper.
We might get sued or might get in trouble with the FCC.
The former superintendent of Lafayette Parish Schools, terminated in November of 2014, has filed lawsuits, wrongful termination. Should he give up? Should he keep on going? Wow. Carol, we'll start with you.
Oh, Patsy. You need to just go away, please. How much more money is this going to cost to taxpayers? Rick Michaud, I think, decided rightly that he should not get a new trial. They've been over these issues over and over since 2014, right? Mm-hmm. It's been going on about a year now. It's time. It's time to just let it go. I'm sorry he's having trouble letting go, but he's got to let it go. And maybe this is an indication of his personality and why he had so many problems with the school board to begin with. Anyway, Misha said he stands by his decision. The board was within its rights, and he did arbitrarily set the salaries of principals, but that's not all he did. I mean, remember, you work at the pleasure of the school board, right? They're your employers. Now, they're not supposed to meddle in the inner workings. They're supposed to be the board of directors, and he was supposed to be the manager, the head, the CEO. But when it comes to policy decisions, that's where they do have input. And when they said, rightly or wrongly, we want to limit the number of charter schools, we don't want to add any more charter schools, we don't want charter schools, and he goes around their back and he goes to Bessie. And not only does he go to Bessie and say, we want charter schools after the board said, no, we don't, then he calls people in Lafayette liars. And that was in a published report in quotes. So he's had problems all along. I think he should just move on with his life. You know, if I were in counseling, I would say, Pat, take a deep breath. Move on.
Thank you, Carol. Warren?
First question I have is who's paying his legal fees? The taxpayers paying for his attorney, like we paid for the attorney that time who fought the desegregation issue over and over and over, and nobody would ever come up and tell how much money it was costing the taxpayers. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying that is the question needs to be asked. I mean, you know, when Michael Milken got tried by Rudy Giuliani and was sentenced to prison, his cohort refused to cop a plea with him, and he fought the thing for about 10 years, and so finally he said that one day he told the federal government, he said, look, he said, I've got enough money to fight this thing just as long as y'all want to keep it going. He said, but there's no sense in you wasting the taxpayers' time, effort, and money. He said, because I'm not giving up. So the next day they said, well, guess what? We're going to drop our efforts to prosecute, whatever the guy's name was. And the real reason they prosecuted him because he and Michael Milken both made $1.5 billion. And they
doing nothing that anybody else wasn't doing.
Oh, no. I mean, what they did, they reinvented the financial markets for good. And it was good. And it just the fact was they had money made, and the government wanted that money. And so, you know, with Pat Cooper, I have no earthly idea what he needs to do or don't need to do. I do know this, that if he did what they said he did when he went out there and started quoting salaries to principals or hiring them at higher salaries and what he was authorized to do so, that is clearly grounds for termination. If you don't believe that, I mean, you know, the boards fire people all the time. You can ask Carly Fiorina what happened to her, rightly or wrongly. But still, you know, the board fired her, and she said, fine, I'm out of here.
And there was still the issue of the maintenance director. That was a clear issue that was a violation of board policy when the gentleman didn't have a high school diploma. Now, you know, and if they had been more politic, they could have said, well, look, give us, you know, a couple of months. We'll make sure he gets his GED. You know, we'll negotiate, whatever.
Which he was doing. Like, as soon as it came out, he started doing it right.
Right, but the way they just got at loggerheads about everything after that. That was... And it was not an easy relationship to begin with. I mean, it was a split decision on the board when they hired Dr. Cooper. So I guess the all the signals were there. Maybe somebody missed them, you know, because they just kept going on. But, you know, Bernie, I have a big thank you that I want to send out to Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Not only do they sponsor this program, and I really appreciate that, but they've been one of the major sponsors of our Home for the Holidays. They just gave the Cadillac. You know, no strings attached, whatever. And our partners over at KATC and you all here at Town Square Media have been just phenomenal. They had the final phone bank last night. The ticket sales were cut off at midnight, so folks, sorry, too late to get a ticket. We'll be giving away on the 5 o'clock news on TV3. They'll be giving away the GE Cafe refrigerator from Tops Appliances and the diamond earrings from Paul's Jewelry. And then at 6 o'clock, the major drawing for that $490,000 home in Tuscany subdivision. So, I mean, the home builders really go all out. These are not scaled back homes. These are homes with all of the amenities, and the best part is the people that it will help. And all the money stays here, helping Faith House, Habitat for Humanity, Healing House, Hope for Grieving Children, and St. Michael's Center for Veterans. So there are 4 transitional programs, actually. They're hands up for people. Mm-hmm. They're not long-term welfare dependency programs. These are programs that help people get back on their feet and become productive members of society.
And even though Homes for the Holiday, that drawing specifically is finished, or that contest is finished, I mean, it's the spirit of giving.
Absolutely.
These organizations could use your help if you're looking for a charity to donate in the Christmas season. They're all great. I mean, how we've just heard of so many success stories through working with you with Home for the Holidays and hearing people who've been affected or who've been helped. You know, sometimes we get these people in here and they tell their story, and I think, if I was in your situation, I don't know how I could have pulled
How would
through.
you cope? Exactly.
But it's great, and we're so lucky to have these.
And you know what? I don't
here.
believe that survey about volunteerism in Louisiana, because I see what happens here in Lafayette and Acadiana.
Well, it just tells
no way that we're in the lower portion.
I know,
it tells me the rest of the state must be terrible, because right here.
Well,
you know,
I think you had the fellow from Louisiana on afterwards who actually did the numbers, who said, we're probably more in the norm, but I still think, I agree with you, Rob. I think we're way above the norm, especially in the Acadiana area.
Well, and you ever notice when they do some survey across the country, these national survey people, it is always some weird criteria, and Louisiana is always at the bottom. I think they do that
we
on
are kind of weird.
You're at the bottom of the good list and on the top of the bad list.
Yeah.
We really don't fit anybody's idea of what is the norm. But we just have our own way. Hey, who knows how the hummingbird flies? It just does.
Carol Ross, Warren Caudle, thanks for joining us. Wingin' It Wednesday.
Have a great day.
Every Wednesday here. We'll have time coming up after Fox Business and a couple commercials. I'll tell you about the All Christmas station that we have available that you can listen to on our website. It's 7:53 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL.